Good afternoon. It's 4:30 p.m. on Tuesday, April 20th, 2021. We'll go ahead and call the New Ulm City Council meeting to order. Item number 1.1, public meeting notice. All councilors are present. We will move on to item number 2, consent agenda. Councilors, what are your wishes?
I'll offer a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3.1, raffle gambling permit for New Ulm United Soccer Club.
Make a motion to approve the issuance of a lawful gambling permit for the New Ulm United Soccer Club to conduct raffles and gambling at Herman Monument, 10 Monument Street, New Ulm on Thursday, July 29th, 2021.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3.2, Smiley's Tavern liquor license extension to outdoor patio.
Council President, councilors, before you have a request from Smiley's Tavern to have a patio outside from May 1st until October 31st. They would be looking at doing a 20 by 30 area outside their back door. And one condition that we would like to add is that they do have to have some type of barrier, snow fencing or something to enclose that area so people cannot wander outside. But with that, I have no other concerns with granting this request.
Seemed to work pretty well last year. Do we know if there was any complaints from law enforcement? I know we don't have law enforcement here.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I think they did a really good job.
They have a nice
And-
park. They got a lot of great parking right around there.
Yeah,
so.
and last year it was actually a much bigger spot because they took up all that parking area, and that entire area was for that. This is just a 20 by 30 area coming off their back door, so all their parking will still be available.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and offer the resolution, waive the reading, to approve the request from Smiley's Tavern, 425 North State Street, to set up two 10 by 30 tents in their parking area and authorize the extension of their liquor license to a temporary outdoor patio from May 1st through October 31st, 2021.
And then would that be with the condition of having some type of
With the
snow
condition
fencing?
as you stated. Yes, thank you.
And a second. Any further discussion?
Madam President, Council, the reason that the city manager has asked for the boundary under both state law and our code, what the council is doing, the city is doing, is licensing a premises, and that has to be designated. When you have a building, it's easy because it's the building at the address. When it goes outdoors like this, the understanding would be, if the resolution is passed, that it would be for a 20 by 30 foot area on the rear adjacent to the building, so that it's clear that's the area where patrons can have alcohol, but they cannot have it beyond that, because otherwise.
What would they need, Roger, if they wanted to serve alcohol out on those tents? What would they need to do?
They could serve out there now, if you grant this. The problem is that you cannot just have it open, because the premises are
Sure.
what's getting licensed. So where do the premises end? And I think just as a matter of enforcement, what we have seen is that people tend to wander. If it's a nice summer night and they're outside, they're going to walk over to their car, or they're going to whatever. And so the idea behind the state law and the code is you have a place where it's legal to buy and consume, but that's it. You can't go beyond
Right.
that. So
We don't want them bugging the nuns next door.
that's right.
Okay, we still have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka? Yes. President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 4.1, summary of business conducted during board meetings and commissions. Les will start with you.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. Just have a couple brief ones. Chamber has been advertising for an event coordinator that's going to wrap up in the next day or two. They'll start interviews with that. This is the time of the year that we get notification if we want to be involved in the League of Minnesota Cities, 4 different programs that they have. I've been involved for about 5 years and have really enjoyed to be involved in the one that I've been involved with is improving local economies. It meets just 3 times in the fall, starting in July, August, and September, 9:30 to noon. They've been virtual, obviously, the last year. But this is also for mayors. It's also for city attorneys. It's also for city managers. They have a nice variety of people that get involved in these, and you walk away with a lot of good information. So they have improving service delivery systems. That's one of their committees, improving local economies, human resources and data practices, and improving fiscal futures. So those are the 4 that they have. They're all 3 meetings long. They're all in that July, August, September. They are going to be virtual and probably live this fall, depending. They're kind of saying that they're dependent right now. So, and it's very simple to sign up. They're just a SurveyMonkey sign up and you're set up. If you can't go, there's no punishment or anything. But like I said, I've learned a lot over the years, and I'd encourage my colleagues to take a look at that if they have an interest. That's all I have.
Thank you.
I'll just briefly touch on the Heritage Preservation Commission. I believe most of you probably heard the news today or read it in the paper that our City of Newell Heritage Preservation Commission also went along with the recommendations from the county commissioners, the Brown County Historical Society. George's is going to come down. We're going to move forward. What'll happen now is they actually received a letter from us today and a copy of the meeting last night. That will get sent up to the State Historical Preservation Commission, get their feedback, what else do they need, and move forward with it. Park and Rec Commission will give that. That's coming down the line, so I don't have to touch on it.
Perfect. I'll just give a quick update. The EDA recently released the Get It Ready program, and we've already had a couple of applicants for that. If you'd like more information, definitely visit the website or give the city a call. That program is designed to help those that may be wanting to get out of their home or to downsize, a little bit of loan money to get the house ready. So that's been a nice program, and that is my update.
I've got nothing this month yet. We haven't met for zoning yet.
Likewise.
Thank you. Item number 5.1, old business, B&L Bar Alley closure.
Council President, councilors, before you have kind of the second consideration for the B&L alley closure. I did meet with Rick Com to address some of the issues from the last council meeting. And so before you have an updated proposal that I think kind of meets the balance of what was needed to be addressed at the last council meeting. So this would be the first and third weekends of the month. That's when he would like to close the bar. The start time has been pushed back to 4 p.m. on Friday and would continue through Sunday, 12 p.m. This arrangement would be good until the executive orders have lifted and he can be at 100% capacity. At that time, this arrangement would go away, and B&L Bar would have to apply for special events moving forward. So with that, I'll turn it over for the discussion, and then Rick Com is here to address any concerns or questions that the council has.
Thank you.
So what I basically saw in this is we went from the previous meeting where it was going to be potentially every weekend to this compromise, which is every other weekend, basically. Which also could disappear upon the governor's. I was going to double check with that. So it could disappear even in a couple of weeks if the governor changes his restrictions. So
The times have been moved back to a more reasonable hour too,
Yes.
later in the day, not a full closed day on a Friday. That's what I'm seeing, was a difference.
Would you like to be heard?
Yes, Roger Hippert. I'm one of the owners of the property located at 11 North Minnesota Street across the alley that's proposed to be closed. I appreciate the fact that the request is substantially reduced from the initial request that was made. On behalf of our building, I would still ask that it be denied. I think I've got concerns about closing a public right-of-way for this purpose. I just think it's something that is not appropriate when you weigh the reason why a right-of-way exists and the fact that it's an alley that's supposed to be open to the public. I think there are other alternatives for this business where they could open up in the back like other bars have done. If the council is going to go ahead with this, I would ask that the hours start at 5 PM on Friday, which is when businesses normally would be closing, instead of 4 PM. Otherwise, I think you're going to have that transition there that could potentially present a problem. I would also ask that the alley truly be secured. If the plan is to just set up 2 parking bucks, what's going to happen is you're going to have patrons coming out of the bar, going beyond the patio area, walking into the alley and vice versa. And then what's going to happen is people are going to be hanging out on the sidewalk, and it's going to be mushrooming all over. So again, for the same, reasons should apply to any bar owner, the premises need to be secured. If the council agrees to allow this, people could still get in and out through the side door of the B&L bar. But I think, and I'd mentioned this to Mr. Com, the event they had with the ice bar, where there was blocks of ice that totally blocked off the alley, that worked out. But they had it blocked off. When they've got the parking bucks, not so much, because it's basically keeping the cars out, but it doesn't keep pedestrians from moving back and forth. So, it doesn't have to be ice blocks, but it should be something that's going to really restrict this. And I guess the other question I would have would be, my assumption is that this would be considered, and if it would be granted, it would be granted as a result of helping out a business due to the restrictions from the pandemic. And this would end when those restrictions end. And I'm wondering if Mr. Com would agree that he's not going to come back in front of you next year and say, well, this really is good for our business and I just want to keep using this alley. Because my concern is that this has been a push that's been going on for years. And that's ultimately what this business would like to be doing. And I'm hoping that we never get to that point where we're just going to allow a business to take over an alley that's established for the use of the public. Thank you.
I'd like to say a couple of words. In all regards, I think as a council, we have to be mindful of all the property owners. And end of the day, they want access to their property. Currently, we've always been doing Bachfest, Oktoberfest, a couple special events. And yeah, I know we have the pandemic. In those regards, Mr. Hippert would like access to his property. His tenant would like to have access if they start using their dental care. In those aspects, we haven't heard from them directly, any letters from the dental company yet. But I'm going to throw out a proposal. Mr. Com pick a couple weekends for the summer and do his Oktoberfest, Bachfest, and that's 4 times for the year to use the public right away and have those dates, work out with the neighbor property owners that they're okay with it and end a subject and we move on. Otherwise, we keep kicking it down the road and then we're trying to do this, and if he picks the first and third, and if Mr. Hippert's going to be trying to move out of his property, and it doesn't work out for him or his scheduling, if one weekend he has everything lined up, and then it gets to the next weekend, and then he can't do it, in those aspects. Ultimately, it's a public right-of-way.
I'd argue we got a little bit different situation here. What we got going on is bars and restaurants downtown are barely making it. They're scratching along, trying to trying to stay open. And this is a short one-time plan. This is until the governor pulls back all the restrictions. So that could end actually shortly. Could be a couple of weeks. Could be the summer. We don't know yet. But I think we need to help our businesses, and I think just giving somebody a couple extra weekends is really not business friendly, and I think we need to do what we can. You know, this owner has come up with a plan, he's come up with a way to increase his income, and good for him. This is not forever. Next year is next year, and it's a whole different topic and discussion. I think we need to support our bar owners and our restaurants, and if they come to us with a plan that we can support in the temporary interim period, I think we need to take a look at each one of those.
I agree with Councilor Schultz on that. I think Mr. Com has come up with a fairly fair and reasonable request here. Mr. Com, would 5 o'clock be still doable? Okay. I think that this is something that we can, as a city, support a business in a time that business is struggling. This is something he's doing to keep people safe. I've heard from numerous people that they are in favor of this, so I would be in favor of this as well.
You know, on my comment, I'm on the fence with it about the precedents we set and whatnot. You know, for long term, I've got a question for Rick. I was over the door that goes into the alley right now. Is that give access to the bar? There's a door in the alley way in the back by your,
No, that goes to the upstairs and to the storeroom in the back.
because I was actually looking at giving you 3 feet of the alley thing and whatnot and patrons to get to the back of your building. And
Yeah, it just wouldn't work because of all the electrical and everything.
I saw that, okay.
Mr. Com, have you explored options to expand out the back entryway? And if you can step up to the mic, thank you.
Yes, I have. It's just not feasible. All my electrical's back there, all my electrical panels, and it would cost thousands and thousands of dollars to do it. And so it would not, and also would not be handicap because there's a step and everything else to get to that point would not be looked at it. I had people look at it and it's just not even going to be couldn't be even an option. And I did check with the dental clinic because we do bill them. And I did talk to Molly over there, and they do not plan on coming back right now because they do we bill them because they use our dumpster for dumping. And I did call over there, and they are not using it, and they don't plan at this time using it.
If a motion is made, one of the things I would like to see is an end date. It does say until the governor's order is lifted, but in the event that that does get extended, I think having an end date on that would be
You have a suggestion on that?
wise. I would leave that up for you guys to
The
discuss.
What do we do for
November?
Smiley's?
It says November 30th here.
The original one?
November? Ooh.
Well, in our overview
And
here, it
that's,
says.
yeah. And so
30th
if you
November
guys
30th,
had a different
2021.
idea on that, that should be part of, just in case the governor's order does not get lifted and goes beyond that, it just,
Could happen.
Roger Hippert again, just
Yes.
just for the record. I'm not, and Mr. Com said he talked to Molly at the dental surgeon's office. I have no idea who that is. I've been in communication with Dr. Richard Marlowe, who is the managing doctor at the clinic. He's the person who signs the lease with our building on behalf of the clinic. And he made it very clear that an essential part of this lease is access to that alley. I did ask him about the fact that they're not currently serving patients, and he said that was due to the pandemic and also due to some staffing problems, and he hoped to resume it. So I don't know what their plans are. That's under their control. But presumably they will be reopening their operations. So I don't want the council to think that that's no longer a concern, because it is. And our building is currently for sale. I don't know who's going to be buying it. It's certainly not, if we're talking about businesses, it's not helping me to market this property to people drinking in the alley next door every Friday and every Saturday. And we've got another vacant building there that could be occupied. And I think we should be doing everything for all of the vacant properties downtown to make them as attractive as possible to whatever businesses might want to go there, whether it's professional offices, retail, whatever it might be. And I would urge you to be considering that in deciding what you want to do on this particular request. Thank you.
Yes. Mr. Dalton?
Council President, councilors, if you wanted to be kind of consistent with a timeline, Smiley's is, you approve Smiley's to be open till October 31st.
I'm going to go ahead and offer a resolution, waive the reading to temporarily close the alley next to the establishment on the first full weekend and the third full weekend each month beginning Friday, May 7th, starting Fridays at 5 p.m. to Sundays at noon when weather conditions are favorable until the governor lifts the capacity restrictions or we reach October 31st, 2021. And authorize the extension of the B&L bar liquor license to the closed alley on the requested dates to allow alcohol to be consumed, served in the alley subject to conditions.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Okay, I want to back up to that number 2. Okay, so should we be more specific? I mean, a traffic barrier. Yes, that could just be sawhorses. I mean,
Well, in the past, I think I saw gates, right? Gates from runnings. That's what you're tending and using. Traffic barrier.
Building, there used to be a pipe there to attach it over to that building over there. Everybody wants not touch this building.
I guess I'd like to hear from Mr. Hippert. How does this affect your plans if you're going to be doing some moving out of the building this year?
Well, Madam President, councilors, that is an ongoing concern because with respect to our building, there's going to be 2 things happening, possibly 3, I hope. One is we're going to need access to move things out, to be throwing things out. We're also going to need to have access for shredding. We've got thousands and thousands of files that go back to the 1930s and 40s. We're blessed with too much storage space, and they're going to have to get shredded. It's going to be multiple times. I'm not sure when that's going to happen. I would like to have the flexibility of being able to get to our building on a public alley when I need to. And I'm working full-time, so that certainly might be a Saturday or a Sunday. And I don't know how I do that if there's a cattle gate and patrons in that alley. And I don't know when that's going to happen. I'm hoping it also at some point there's going to be some new owner or tenant moving into that building, and they're going to need access. Presumably they would do it during business hours, but they may not. I mean, people, if they've got other things going on, they do it on weekends as well. So that's the access I have. We have big double doors. That's what they're there for, to get to our elevator and to our building. If on these weekends, we're not going to be able to do that if this is granted.
Mr. Com, in this diagram here we have in front of us, you've got 4 feet. Are you still with fencing off and leaving a 4-foot walkway through the alley?
Well, that was our plan, but I don't know, Mr. Hippert wants us to be tight over there, so I don't know how we're gonna,
Well, you'd have to have a confined area here. Your
Yeah.
diagram is showing 48 feet long, 16 feet across, leaving a 4-foot walkway
Yes.
to the building. Then Mr. Hippert would still have access to his double set of doors, if I'm looking at this diagram.
well, I won't be back to his double doors. His back double doors are behind my side door, where we need to be. And if he's telling me he's gonna be there on that Saturday, then I'll accommodate, but my point is, one thing I wanna know is if he's gonna do it every other Saturday just to hinder what we were doing, then I won't, you know what I mean, then it's a pointless situation. I'll work with him if he wants to say, hey, this is the only Saturday I got. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, and it won't be Saturday night anyhow, I'll just do it that night or whatever,
But we're still going to have a 4-foot walkway from the
if that's what you guys want.
from the alleyway. That's what's in the diagram here.
Yes, that's what it
stated.
was, yes.
And is that what Les and Eric have agreed to on their motion, that there's that 4-foot walkway
Absolutely.
and that it's gated off or fenced on the three sides.
Yep.
We still have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I would just like to say that it appears from the first proposal to the second proposal, there's been some significant changes made in hopes to accommodate the needs of the surrounding businesses. We have heard from several businesses that are in support of this, and while I've heard from both parties information on conversations that were had with the dental clinic, I have not heard from anyone myself. Has any of the other council received any correspondence?
No.
Thank you. Motion and a second is still on the floor. Any more discussion?
So one other, okay, we have the motion in the second now, and I know Mr. Com would work with Mr. Hippert on that. Yeah, should that be in the motion or not, or just a verbal is good?
I think it part.
Two professional people here that can work this out.
I think
really
as a
do.
community, it's also important to be a good neighbor. And sometimes that means being somewhat flexible. And I trust that they're two business owners that can work out a schedule that's reasonable and will benefit each other.
I believe that that's correct.
Thank you.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Okay. Is there any more discussion? All right, Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
No.
Counselor Schultz? Yes. Counselor Christian? Yes. Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
And President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 6.1, resignation of mayor and appoint acting mayor.
And councilors, before you, you have the mayor's letter of resignation dated April 15th, 2020, or effective April 15th, 2021. And with that, we would need to appoint an interim mayor that would take effect tomorrow, April 21st. And per the city charter, the interim mayor, until one is found, would be the council president, so that'd be Council President Becker. Before you make any motion or anything, I would just like to take the time to present the mayor with a plaque on behalf of the city and the council for his time. So, with the plaque, with our greatest appreciation, Mayor Robert Boisman, in recognition of your devoted service as mayor and your outstanding dedicated leadership, compassion, and loyalty to our community, your character and integrity have guided us through many changes over the years and has been an inspiration to us all. So thank you from the city of New Ulm.
Thank you for your service. All right. Thank you.
Question?
Yes.
Clay Schultz, New Ulm Journal. We had a question at the Journal regarding the mayor's resignation. When it was announced that he was resigning, he informed us that part of the reason he made this decision was he received a letter signed by the city council basically stating that if he did not resign, that issue would be brought up here at this council meeting today. My question is about how this letter was created and signed and distributed to everybody in the council.
President, excuse me, I'm going to object to this. This is not a public meeting. This is inappropriate. It's not on the agenda. This is not the format or the forum in which to be discussing this. If the Journal or anyone else has questions, they can be directed to our city manager or to me as a city attorney. So if you have questions, you can do that and we will be responding to them, right? This is not the format to be doing this in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and offer an action to receive and order file the resignation of Mayor Robert Boisman effective April 15th and appoint Council President Andrea Becker as acting mayor effective April 21st till such time as the council appoints a successor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Item 6.2, declaring vacancy in the office of mayor.
I'll offer the resolution, waive the reading to declare that effective April 15th, 2021, the elected position of office of mayor, City of Nome is vacant.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka? Yes. President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 6.3, selection process to fill the vacancy of office of the mayor.
Council President and councilors, the process that we would follow would be the same process that we used to fill the position of the past counselor, Counselor Fisher. We would be looking at having the application process begin tomorrow, the April 21st. That application would go up on NeoGov. Application deadline would be 4 p.m. on Sunday, May 9th. Council interviews for candidates would be 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. on Tuesday, May 18th. And the council would make the appointment at the meeting following the interviews at 4:30.
A couple questions that I had is this, so this is just a general application. You just, I want to be the mayor.
So much like there will be, I think we're doing application questions that they'll be filling out. Much like the process before, they'll have the questions. Depending on how many applicants, Shauna and myself will kind of review and give you the top 3 or 4 candidates for you to interview. And it pretty much will follow the same thing. We'll ask for questions from the counselors to add
Pre-application process or the interview process?
on the interview process. We'll ask for questions from you that
Could we do some of that in the pre-application?
Yeah.
Sorry, Shauna Boomgarden, HR Director. There are 5 supplemental questions that I've included in the application. Some of them include, have you previously served on a governing board of any type or as a leader in an organization? If so, briefly describe the organization. Does your interest in serving as the mayor of New Ulm stem from personal interest or goal? Is there something in particular you hope to accomplish while serving? There's like 3 others. I already have the questions prepared and I will be emailing them to the council for any feedback. I've gotten some feedback, but for any feedback so that they will be ready for the interviews on May 18th. And then as far as the function of the mayor, we also included that information from the charter on the mayor functions. That'll be included in the application online.
My second question had to do with item number 2, is your closing is Sunday, May 9th. You really can't close an application process because of the mail. So how do you
This is
do
all
that?
online. We take all of our applications
So
now.
nothing comes through the mail anymore?
No, it's all on,
okay.
it's all through NeoGov. So we normally close them Sundays at 4
Okay.
p.m. is when we close the application process. It's
I'm good with
strictly
that.
online.
I'm good, thank you.
I'm okay with it. I'm going to offer a motion to approve the selection process to fill the vacancy office of mayor.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6.4, appointments to Airport Commission.
I'll offer a motion to approve Brad Lipke to fill the unexpired term of Ted Bennell, serving a partial 3-year term beginning April 20th, 2021 and ending December 31st, 2021. And Rosemary Gear to serve a partial 3-year term beginning April 20th, 2021 and ending December 31st, 2023.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6.5, first consideration of ordinance number 2021-042.
Madam President, councilors, prepared this in response to the work study session that we had regarding the interest of a company to be having this type of, electric scooter operation operate in the city. The preferred format in Minnesota is for the city to have an ordinance in place that would address the items that are contained in this ordinance, and then to have a separate license agreement with each company that may want to do business in this fashion. So by considering this tonight and moving on to the second one, if this is enacted, we would then have that in place, because there is, of course, some time that's involved in that process and the publication. And then we're going to be meeting with Park and Rec, and we're discussing with them now the terms of the actual license agreement. I think one of the big questions is going to be the extent of the use of these types of scooters on the bike trail, other paths, recreational trails that we might have. There definitely are different ways of viewing that. But ultimately, that will be coming back to you for your decision. But we'll get input from the Park and Rec Commission, see what they have to say about. But the first step would be to at least get this ordinance in place. So it's just the first consideration this afternoon.
I would say I read through it and I kept seeing the word micro-mobility, and I just thought that was kind of a fun new word, I guess, to describe these little scooters.
Micro-mobility.
I also did receive an email from somebody that was wondering about the use of these micro-mobility machines, I guess, on the bike trails. And so I don't know if that is addressed in this.
No,
I
this
did
would,
not
again,
see.
that
It's
would
just
be
simply
something that
to,
would be addressed in the license. And there's a number of ways we can do it. Either we can have the license clearly state that they would not be allowed there, or we could state that they're allowed unless it's posted. It's probably better to just deal with it straight across the board. Because if someone enters at a different spot and there's not a sign, it's better to just let them know up front that these are off limits. Normally, sidewalks would also be off limits. But with my understanding of where they would want to park these things, you're going to have to get them onto a sidewalk to be able to park them. So, I mean, to the extent they have to do that, it would be okay. But the plan would be that they would not be going up and down the sidewalks where otherwise people are walking or children would be playing.
Roger, how soon do you figure that you'll have this ordinance, and once you bring it to the Park and Rec? I mean,
Well, I
do we
think
figure by end of summer?
No, yeah, I think I know the company would like to get going as soon as possible.
Yeah, due to weather constraints in Minnesota, they'd like to get up and running because it'll still be whenever either license agreement is approved. From that time that's approved, it'll still be 3 to 5 weeks before they can even find a vendor to operate within the city. So that, I mean, realistically, they may not even be coming this summer just because of the process, the process we're going through. And then potentially looking, what their future plans are. If we don't get on this summer, are they looking to expand next year, or is that a year down the road? So those are conversations that I'll have with the company sometime later on this week, what their plans are.
Okay. And I too received an email in regards concerns about the bicycle trail, and I responded to the individual and said, it's not on for trails at this point in time. We haven't been addressed that, with our council packet, but I do think possibly, with the Park and Rec Commission, maybe they can come up with a guideline that if we do get a business and that they just have you know, like a top 10 thing. These are things where you can go and where you can't go with these scooters, you know, and they understand that when they're signing the rental.
Right, and typically the license agreement would have, if it's spelled out where these are not going to be allowed, and we can also include something that would indicate that when they're communicating with their customers, they need to disclose that here's our areas in the city of New Ulm where they're prohibited, so that the people are going to know that going into it.
There's
Well,
other-
and I think we got to be careful just because we get one email, and I got the same email from somebody who doesn't think that they should be allowed on the path, the bike path. I'd be willing to bet we'll get a whole bunch more on the other side of the situation, and those bike paths are very wide, and I think there could be accommodation for both. I don't know. It's worth discussion down the road. I'm just saying, just because we got one, I don't want to say we're not going to do that.
But I think we have to be mindful also, because you take Highland Avenue, you know, you can say it's a designated bike route, but there's not an actually designated route, and
that's
they
true.
can be going along, and it's a trail, you know, in those aspects. But I think we don't want the vendor coming back and say, well, law enforcement, we didn't know this, or, you know, he said, she said, and I think, you know,
I'm hoping that when Park and Rec is considering this, they'll give it all a lot of attention. Because generally, the way these are applied is they're treated the same as bicycles as far as where they're supposed to be operated. So, you know, if we have a bike path, I suppose people who are proponents would say, well, why can't we use it if bicyclists can use it? But a lot of people don't like that idea. So that's to be determined.
and it might be something that we're going to see what works over a course of a year or two, because it's new to us, and we may be amending it a few times. So,
It's great to have a plan in place, so glad you did that, Roger. So I'll make a motion to conduct the first consideration of ordinance 2021-042, fifth series, amending section 4 of the city code of the city of New Ulm relative to business regulation, adding section 4.67, subdivision 1 through 8, micromobility sharing operations.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6.6, set the date of the public hearing on the 2021 surface reconstruction project.
I'm just setting a date. Joe, we're just setting a date, right?
Yeah, Madam President, City Councilor, this is just setting the date for the public hearing for the surface reconstruction project.
I'll offer the motion to set the public hearing date for May 18, 2021 at 4:30.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6.7, 2022 budget calendar and schedule budget work session.
Everybody starts to groan. Right? Yeah.
Laying out the framework for the budget, so you kind of know where we are in the process. It does lay out one work session with the council on August 17th. Of course, there'll be more room for input as well along the way as we go.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 6.8, general obligation, public utility revenue and refunding fund bonds, Series 2021A.
Councilors, the utilities plan to sell bonds on May 4th. I missed bringing this to you earlier, but the commission has already approved it. Because the city backs the revenue bonds with their taxing power, it has to come to you as well. So there's this request and the following one with the actual details of the bonds.
Nicole, does this affect us any with our renew projects and our bonding?
No.
You know, what are we still at, 10 million for
Yes, 10 million is the
the cap?
for the year.
Okay.
We've already issued all of the renew bonds. There's nothing left to issue there. And the streets bonds this year are under 3 million, so this definitely stays.
we're in
within
check.
that. Yep.
Okay,
They just they'd take the opportunity to capture that low interest rate that's still out there.
sure. I'm going to go ahead and offer the resolution, waive the reading, authorize the issuance and establishment of the terms and conditions and sales, set the date for Tuesday, May 4th, 10 a.m., in the amount of $3,300,000 for general obligation, public utility, revenue, and refunding fund bonds, Series 2021A, and the amount of $3,300,000.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 6.9, general obligation.
As I said, this is just the details of the bonds that will go out for, basically out for the bid that we'll see next when we do the sale, so. I should add too, this is for wastewater treatment plant improvements, just to keep the plant up to specs and running well. And they're also refunding some older bonds too to capture that low interest rate.
I'll offer a motion to receive and approve the draft of the preliminary official statement regarding 3.3 million general obligation, utility revenue, and refunding bonds, Series 2021A.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 6.10, CRRSA grant offer for the New Ulm Municipal Airport.
Madam President, City Councilors, Joe Statham, City Engineer. The New Ulm Airport's been awarded an Airport Coronavirus Response Grant Program grant offer in the amount of $13,000 for improvements at the airport related to operations and things of that nature. Grant amount is for $13,000. There is no match required on the city's part. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Should I ask for more?
Okay. Well, this was an automatic allocated grant through the federal, the latest federal relief package. So
Do you have any restrictions on how you have to use the funds?
there are some, but for general operation, we actually have a furnace that needs to be replaced in the terminal building. That's probably what the bulk of this will
What
go.
needs to be replaced?
A furnace.
A furnace,
Yeah.
okay.
Perfect.
Is that the furnace that you just came to us
Oh,
last council meeting?
that's a separate one. This
That's a
is
separate
a
one.
furnace in the terminal building that's original, so it's almost 30 years old.
Okay.
It's in need of replacement.
I'll make a motion and offer resolution, waive the reading, accepting Airport Coronavirus Response Grant Program, grant offer number 3-27-0070-018-2021 from the Federal Aviation Administration in the amount of $13,000 for airport purposes, and authorize the city manager and city attorney to electronically execute the agreement.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion?
I don't name the grants, by the way.
Thanks, Joe. Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz? Yes. Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 6.11, Fire Department grant applications.
President Betker and councilors, this is an opportunity, a couple of opportunities to defer costs for new AEDs for the fire department. If you notice, one is through the DNR. Those are matching grants. It's a 50-50 deal. And the other is a $600 deduction from purchase of one. So there were two opportunities out there, so we're going to try and
take
take
'em.
advantage of both of them.
I'll offer a resolution, waive the reading, authorizing the submittal of two grant applications to purchase replacement automated external defibrillators, AEDs, for the fire department.
Second.
And a second. Any more discussion?
And thank you for applying for those. Yep.
Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 6.12, library donations and memorials.
Someone take that one. I have a lot of reading to do on the next one, the park one.
We have a list of them.
I was just going to
I've
tell
not
you.
It's
seen
in
it.
the, yeah. There's two,
I
I
can offer
believe.
the resolution, waive the reading, accepting donations and memorials to the New Ulm Public Library for the period from February 7th to April 2nd. We have $3,000 gift from the Friends of the New Ulm Library, $1,000 from the Friends of the New Ulm Library, both dated the end of March, for large print books and emergency preparedness materials. Thank you very much, folks.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz? Yes. Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka? Yes. President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 6.13, Park and Recreation donations.
Okay. At the April 12th meeting, we had a good month. I'm going to offer the resolution, waive the reading, accepting donations offered to the City of New Ulm through the Park and Rec Department as outlined. $6,800 from Independent School District 88 Community Education. German Park Amphitheater, $10 from Lucille Wessel, and $100 honoring Wally Ebert from Levon Ebert. On this one, we've got items 4 through 13. I'm only going to, Betty Baumgartner was a donator on all of these, so I'm only going to say her name once. Betty Baumgartner honoring Teresa and Terry Baumberger, honoring Gary Andrew Baumberger, honoring Betty Ann Baumberger, honoring Kathy May Baumberger, James Lester Baumberger, Fred Joseph Baumberger, Sherry Lewis Baumberger, Joanne M. Becker with love, Bradley Ray Becker, Nancy Jean Baumberger. And also we had $2,270 from Herman Monument Society, Ted Firth being the president. Civic Center, interior wood bench honoring Harvey Yanni, $486.89. That's the first half payment. Herman Monument, $250 from Derek Werewern. Johnson Park, Fred W. Johnson plaque from the New Ulm Baseball Association. Bob Wire plaque from the New Ulm Baseball Association. And Cathedral High School, Paul Pasuka. And in memory of Jess Roiger sign on the bottom of the scoreboard from the New Ulm Baseball Association. Mueller Park, bench in memory of Jess Roiger from the New Ulm Baseball Association. The Youth Easter Egg Hunt Program, $1,500 cash from the New Ulm Optimist Club. And others were under one 15-pound and one 20-pound kettlebell to be used for general fitness, donated by Cheryl Olson. Thank yous will be sent out. Total is $13,416.89 cash, the 2 kettlebells, 3 plaques and signs, and 1 bench.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack? Yes. Counselor Schultz? Yes. Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. For item number 6.16, or 6.14,
6.14.
Turner Gymnastics Academy lease agreement. I'm going to step out as my work with Turner Hall may be a conflict for the council. So I'm going to pass the meeting over to Councilor Schultz, and when this is voted on, I will return.
Thank you, Madam President. Item 614 is the Turner Gymnastics lease agreement. Dave Christian and Tom Schmitz are going to talk about this.
You want to start, Tom?
Yes, Tom Schmitz, representing the Park and Recreation Department. Counselors, you have before you in the packet the consummation of years' worth of discussion and deliberations between the city and Turner Gymnastics Academy to consummate a lease agreement of the new gymnastics center that is in the former swimming pool room of the Recreation Center. I think we all realize that Turner Gymnastics and the association, Nuega, have merged. And so the lease agreement is going to be with that merged entity called Turner Gymnastics Academy. And then during the State High School League high school season, the high school District 88 will be using the facility also under the auspices of kind of a sublease with TGA. So we have, over the years, worked on the terms and the details, the articles in the lease agreement. Thank you very much to our city attorney who's helped with this process. And basically, we went to review the estimated preliminary cost estimates to operate the facility from a city standpoint, utilities, supplies, depreciation, repairs, things like that. And that estimated total 100% of the estimated monthly cost is $5,000. Recently, the Park and Recreation Commission reviewed this topic and have recommended to you, the City Council, that the monthly amount be $4,000 a month. So basically, that's where we're at. The lease agreement is, there might be some final minor tweaks with it here in the remaining days. But basically, it's put together, and the monthly amount is what needs to be decided here. And then, of course, authorizing the city manager to enter into that lease agreement with TGA. I know we also do have the president of New Ulm Turnverein, Turner Hall, Matthew Berger here, if you have any questions from them. But the Park and Recreation Commission has sent you their recommendation.
Yeah, I was in attendance at the April 12th meeting with the discussion that took place. I mean, since that time, though, I did find out that the actual Renew Committee went back 1, 2, how many years ago with numbers that had come out from it and whatnot. And I believe we have a member, Mr. Mack, Councilor Mack is a member of that. If he just wants to touch on that, because the Park and Rec Commission at that meeting wasn't actually privy to that information, those discussions that took place, the numbers that came out. So if you want to touch on that.
You know, for a Renew Oversight Committee, you know, from day one, we always had discussions, and when this goes back 5 to 6 years ago, you know, what, you know, the sales tax is going to pay for the facility, we're going to have operating expenses. And conversations were held, yeah, I believe in one of our work sessions a couple of years ago, we had numbers of, it could be $6,000, it could be $8,000 a month. When we had the Renew meetings with the architect provided a service that brought a consultant in. Mr. Dalton would, I can't remember that consultant's name, that came and presented us with utilities and operating expenses. And it was recommended at that time, I think, between $500 and $5,500 approximately. And ultimately, you know, before us today, we haven't really had any conversations in the last year and a half about this because we haven't met as a Renew Committee in 2020 because of COVID, and there really hasn't been any action needed on those aspects. But I did receive a call, you know, people are concerned. Maybe the president of Turner could answer the question, you know, they're saying, why would you reduce the rate? What do they currently pay for rent in 2 separate facilities? One facility is on site, so you can't really factor that, but the public wanted to know, what do they pay currently and, you know, where they're at, and that individual said he's been down there for meets, and now we're going to build him a Cadillac, and, you know, the individual expressed concern that, you know, we want other parks and other amenities in our community too, and we're not doing it, you know, and giving away the farm, you know, basically, and they're just wanting us to be mindful of, you know, how we set the precedents for moving forward, you know, with renting.
Yep, Councilor Mack, thank you for that information. You have in the packet, beginning on page 216, 216 out of 224, that report from Isaac Sports Group with detailing their preliminary cost estimates from a few years ago and the other facilities they looked at. So I just wanted to point that out, that report is in your packet.
I've been sitting on this group for quite a while as well, and I'm remembering way back when this new Renew project started that, and I think I'm correct on this, that the current Turner Hall could only take kids up to a certain age because of the facilities that we had, as well as the other group, kind of the same thing. They didn't have the deep pit that they needed to be able to take older kids and a higher level of competition. But the new system that we're going to have is going to have that capability, is my understanding, right? Tom, right?
Correct.
Whatever I need to ask. So that would potentially also increase the amount of kids being able to participate and be involved. Is that still correct? And I know that's the future, that's not tomorrow, but I just had a
Well, I will point out that there were two separate facilities, correct?
Yes.
Down on North Front Street and Turner Hall. So we'll let Mr. Berger talk from Turner.
Mr. Berger, fill us in a little bit.
Yes, thank you. Matthew Berger, President of New Ulm Turnverein. You are correct that the current facilities, it's not so much an age issue as the pit for practicing some of the more advanced tumbling and those types of activities. Many of the other facilities in the area have a pit that's filled with foam for the students to practice and learn some of those before they move on, and that's a new feature that this facility will add.
So there's a potential of recruiting more members with this new system, correct?
Yeah, I would say we hope.
We hope anyway.
Yes, that is our hope, is to promote gymnastics.
Because it wasn't the understanding, the old system is once they turned 13 or got to a certain level, that they had to go to Mankato, or they had to go somewhere else because we didn't have the facilities here in New Ulm to help them. But the plan was that Renew was going to take care of that.
Yes, I mean, we have facilities for the high school age to compete, but the pit with some of the training and that, we did not have those facilities here.
Okay.
And some of the gyms in Mankato do have that.
Then there was a question about what you're paying currently for rent now.
I do not have the number in front of me right now. I believe it's around 2,000 for the place down at Front Street. We own the building at Turner Hall. I did want to touch on the rent. That $5,000 number was touched on early on in the process at a time when the plan through Renew had been to build the new gymnastics facility new and keep the pool where it was. Through the planning process, that switched to where the pool was being constructed and we were going into the space. I think it serves the needs, but it is 2,000 square feet smaller than what the original plan had been with the $5,000 discussion. It was initially planned on a 12,000 square foot. It's going to be roughly 10,000 square foot now. So as it has gone through, the space that we would actually be renting is 2,000 square feet smaller, which I think both affects the value of the lease on its face, but also the estimated utility costs. I will share that we did also do some investigation with other facilities. In particular, New Prague has a facility that opened recently. It's larger square footage than what this space would be. That facility, I believe, has slightly lower ceilings, but you're probably close to a ballpark. And the numbers that we got from them for utilities were 17 to 18,000 a month, as compared to what the consultant had estimated at just over 23,000. At the end of the day, Turner Hall and the Turner Gymnastics Academy wants to be a good partner and a good tenant with the city. The discussions through this had been to pay operating costs of this space, and with any new space, there's always uncertainty of what that is. The lease would be a 2-year lease that, as we get into it, as we see what the actual costs are in that space, we can revisit and work with the city. I think that the number is fair, and I think that it would serve the citizens well, and would encourage your support, and we look forward to continue working with the city.
So at the end of the 2 years, if we obviously see it's really unbalanced one way or the other, we can make some adjustments. Would that also mean that you'd have to have your books open to us, to the city? Is that how that works, Nicole? I mean, at the end of like 2 years, can we have that as a condition that we can see Turner's revenue?
Well, Counselor Schull, I guess you can ask for whatever you want to.
Yeah.
I think.
I just want to be
my
fair to them,
understanding
and I
is
think they want to be fair to us.
My understanding is the analysis that you're doing tonight is what is it costing the city to have this facility?
Right.
And you'd like to at least break even, or at least that's, an aspirational goal here. So if they're making $1 million and they're covering their costs,
It doesn't
do we really
matter.
care? The
Right.
problem is if they come back and say, we can't afford it, we want you to cut it to $3,000, it's kind of like the Meals on Wheels deals. Then I think we should be looking at, well, what are you making? And if they want a cut, then I think it is incumbent on them to share that information.
Well, because it could also be the opposite, like we said, if now they can take that new age group, 13 and up, where they couldn't before, they now have a whole new additional revenue source.
Right, and I guess
Which
if the
is gonna
council-
cost more electricity and everything else too.
Again, it's the attitude of the council is, if you want to make money off of this, then you'd be interested in, are they making money? If you'd like to at least have them cover their expenses, then it's all city information. What are our costs to have this facility? While I'm speaking, there is one other thing I'd like to mention. On the online agenda here, the lease includes an Exhibit A, which isn't attached to this, which would actually be the premises that are being rented. And I'm familiar with the fact that the gymnastics part of the complex is now where the swimming pool was, but that's also then going to require access into the building, which is not really dealt with in this lease. Because I'm assuming that Park and Rec still wants to control that and will certainly work with Turner and the gymnastics club, but who's going to have the keys? Who's going to be getting in? I mean, I think we should have that in here. So, and that's some of the fine tuning that I think you were referring to earlier before we really have it ready to be signed. That's the only comments I've got. Otherwise, the rent amount is up to the council to determine.
I'd like to just touch base from the renew. When we went in this to the get-go, Turner Hall was at every meeting. And originally, if we wanted to build them a standalone structure, when we were looking at the north end of the current Vogel, just north of the basketball, the walking track area, the costs were over the roof. We weren't going to be able to, and we worked hard as a group to try to accommodate all the needs. And going into the pool was our lowest cost and going to be the future lowest cost operating for them to be in that area. The end result, we have to build new pools, which costs us more, ultimately. So as far as the square footage, that was prevalent from day one, whether it's a couple thousand square feet, because the Turner board members attended the same meetings, as city staff and the Renew Oversight Committee. And, we went in this, we even had a work session, over this, we even talked over potential leases and a business plan in the last 3 years on those aspects. And when, we had a consultant that we hired, and we were in that $500 to $5,500 approximately.
Councilor Schultz? Just looking, from my perspective and just giving you some additional information, there's no other user group in the Park and Recreation facility that pays 100% of costs at this point in time. And all other youth user groups are subsidized in some way, shape, or form. But, that being said, it is, a newer facility and we are building it to help accommodate, but it's a 2-year lease at the end of the day. And again, we can look at the numbers and again, let's help them build their base.
Mm-hmm.
Again, they're currently operating at their lower numbers. Let's give them a year to get their numbers where they want them to be and then a year of full operation so we can see where those costs are, because even the consultant is basing it on estimates. It's not hard data. We will have 2 years of hard data where we can come back as a city and say, hey, it does cost us $4,300 a month to operate this.
Or $6,300 or whatever it is.
Whatever it is. And we can make adjustments at that time. So I don't, and again, in what world does rent ever go down? It's easier to go up, to move up. And so let's start at 4,000. We're not taking a ton off. We're recouping, if you want to, 80% of the cost, and then we can recoup that if we need to moving forward. And we're still kind of in line with how we practice subsidizing youth sports and, essentially not recouping 100% of the cost from Park and Rec facilities and rentals.
Tom, do you have some more there, I'm thinking?
Touch base, this individual that reached out to me also had concerns about the use of the locker rooms. Now, Turner Hall will not be using the locker rooms. They'll be just using their space. Is that correct?
No, that is incorrect. Turner Hall, the participants and the instructors and the spectators will be coming in the front door of the recreation center like all users of the recreation center. And then they will be funneling around the welcome desk, past the new Herbeck room into the gymnastics center. And their participants and fans and instructors will be able to use the facilities, the restrooms, the locker rooms, the showers, the foyers and the hallways. So those were all accounted to in this estimated monthly cost.
I know we shrunk the locker rooms down, in size and everything, but are we going to be able to accommodate everybody is what the individual
Yes, I'm confident we will. And just to point out a couple of other things in the action form, as City Manager Dalton mentioned, he's addressing the items number 2 and number 3 under the budgetary fiscal issue areas, in which no other user group of Park and Rec pays 100% of city costs. And the other youth user groups are all partially subsidized by the city, whether it's the Hockey Association, the Basketball Association, all these other youth athletic sports. And then I do want to point out in the overview there, item number 6, you do have the actual square footages of the facility. And in reference to Attorney Hippert's question, that the access, they will be coming in the front door, and if they, so that there won't be any real problem with access. They'll be able to lock the door of the gymnastics center, which is inside of the recreation center, to keep the public out of the gymnastics
I
center.
think the lease needs to identify
Yes,
who's
yes.
in control of the building.
Right, so we will, there is correct, there are a few little tweaks in the language there. But I just wanted to point out a couple of those items. Thank you.
Counselors, any other comments? We have a Park and Rec recommendation for 4,000. We have city staff recommending 5,000. Is there a compromise, or somebody like to entertain a motion?
I'd like to do a compromise in the middle. I'd like to do a compromise in the middle, maybe 4,500.
Okay. Is that a
Work
motion?
with them, try it for 2 years.
Are you going to turn that into a motion?
I can. I'll offer a motion to authorize the city manager to sign a lease agreement with New Ulm Turner Bryan, DBA Turner Gymnastics Academy for Gymnastics Center and Rec Center with a monthly rental of $4,500.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion, a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. I will return the gavel to Madam Chair Betker for item number 6.15, BMX issues. If she hasn't taken a nap out there. Oh, there she is. So I just pulled up item number 6.15, BMX requests for temporary camping. Mr. Schmitz.
Thank you, counselors. Tom Schmitz, Park and Recreation Department. You have before you what has often been an annual request from the River Valley BMX Club for temporary camping over the weekend in the summer, in which they host a state qualifier race. You have all the information on the action sheet. There has been no problems with this request in the past. The Park and Recreation Commission recommends that you approve this.
We've approved this for a very long time, so I'll go ahead and offer the resolution, waive the reading, authorizing the overnight temporary camping not to exceed 5 recreational fires, South German Park, 3rd South Street, for BMX State Qualifier Racing Event the nights of Friday, June 11th through 12th, and June 12th through the 13th.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka? Yes. And President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 6.16, Herman Fest 2021 requests.
Tom Schmitz had to sit, or Tom Firth had to sit through this entire meeting for this request, right?
Thank you, President Betker and counselors. You have before you what is often an annual request from the Herman Monument Society to produce Herman Fest in both Herman Heights Park and Harmon Park. No changes at all from previous festivals. I will point out in the primary issues and alternatives, if COVID-19 recommends that there be precautions or guidance, those will be adhered to. And if public health recommends not producing the festival, the society has committed to not producing the festival if public health recommends that according to the virus. We also have President of the Herman Monument Society, Thomas Firth, here. I think he'd like to address the council.
Thank you, Tom. Tom Firth, 1026 15th North, New Ulm. I don't have much to add. It's getting late. Mostly, hard to believe we stood here a year ago thinking, let's get ready for Herman Fest, and then we didn't do anything.
Nothing.
Been a long year, and we're trying to pull off Bavarian Blast 2, and of course that's quite a bit sooner than Herman Fest. I like our odds at Herman Fest. We got a lot more square footage that we're dealing with. The social distancing, people bring their own chairs. If people have to be seated in order to drink and eat, that's a lot easier to pull off at Herman Fest, I think. We just don't have the sheer numbers. If we've had 1,000 people on the grounds at any given time, 1,000, 1,500, we're probably lucky. So I'm optimistic. I have sent 2 emails to Irv Hamann, our fireworks guy, and I haven't got a reply. So I hope he's got our standard date on his calendar to discharge the great fireworks display. Any questions for me?
I hope we can do it this year.
Let's get things back to normal.
People are ready.
Yeah, nice to have a celebration.
Yeah, and we are very much appreciative that the city funds the fireworks annually. Hope you get your bang for your buck, pun intended.
Well, Tom, and thanks to you and your committee. And, this festival started, not that many years ago, and it's just gotten better. It's more organized. It's a fun family festival, and that's what I really, really like about this. And so thanks to you and your group that pull that off every year. So I'm going to offer the resolution to waive the reading authorizing the Herman Monument Society to temporarily close Center Street between Garden Street and Highland Avenue on Saturday, September 11th, 2021 from approximately 8:15 to 9 o'clock to accommodate the wonderful fireworks discharge during Herman Fest.
I'll second that.
Do we need to read the and?
And authorize.
There's a secondary piece. Sorry.
And, I got to do all that. Okay. And authorize the request by Herman Monument Society for the following Herman Fest on Saturday, September 11th in Herman Heights and Herman Parks. Grant an exception to City Code 8.2, Subdivision 3 to allow discharge of cannons and fireworks during the event. Lots of cannons. Number 2, authorize the discharge of fireworks at Herman Heights Park during the event. Permission is required as the city is the owner. And number 3, allow the fire department to remain on standby at the fireworks site should their services be required. This does not include crowd control or fireworks discharge activities. How's that?
Second.
Right. There's still a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Director Jorgensen, please call the roll.
Counselor Mack?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Christian?
Yes.
Counselor Warmka?
Yes.
President Becker?
Motion carries. Item number 7 with no new business. This meeting is adjourned.